Why am I there? Self-sabotage is a real crafty and sneaky bitch. Hi guys, it's Nikki. Thank you for sitting with me today. I'm so happy you're here. So today's video is going to be about how last week kicked my ass. And it's going to be centered around like of depression and anxiety, because what's new? And making a mistake and the guilt and shame that comes with that and working your way out of it. So for me, this past week, my anxiety has looked like this paranoid belief that my friends and people I interact with online hate me, despise me. No proof, just vibes, or no vibes actually. And I have tools to deal with thinking like that. Part of that is asking myself, what's the evidence, what's the proof, and going from there, working my way down. Also working up on uh what I've seen be referred to as like abandonment anxiety. So, like if someone's upset with me, they will tell me not to personalize response times or tone of responses. I With my anxiety and someone who deals with codependency, and being a fearful avoidant attachment type, like they all joined forces and just tag teamed and beat my ass this past week. And I ended up feeling silly because I I just I just couldn't catch up with the with the anxiety. It was doing the dash, and I believe part of that was the week before, just some family stuff was transpiring, and my own mental health. Like I feel like I didn't see it coming, which I don't know how often I do see my anxiety coming. But I did end up talking to one of my LS's, Raven, who was one of the people who I thought was upset with me. And I felt bad that I even had to do this, because I know, like I should know better at this point in time. And I also had to tell myself, well, you were doing the best you could. Part of growing and healing and doing the work is knowing sometimes you fall off the horse. And sometimes the growing is not linear. The healing is not this straight upward line. Sometimes you backtrack. Sometimes, it feels like your tools didn't work this day. And to give yourself compassion and grace. And that goes back to the last video I did. It's important to be mindful of how we are talking to people, because sometimes that's how we're talking to ourselves, and you just don't know what people are going through. And even my friend Carrie had to affirm me last week, and it wasn't working. And it's just because the belief had already set in and was running wild. Wednesday, I think I got a break for a little bit. I did talk to Raven. That was my LS, one of the people I thought was upset with me. And she didn't even know why I would think that. And I ended up having to ask her. I needed that clarity. In that moment, I needed that clarity because I was just doing a lot of sweating and my heart was racing, and my brain was creating these narratives and stories, and like that had beginning, middles, and ends, and none of the endings were good, right? And that can be exhausting. It can be um unsettling and sad and exhausting, and you just feel bad that you're even somebody who you feel like um you care this much, you're worried this much, you're soft, you need this much assurance. And I haven't that's something I've struggled with coming back to social media. I got off social media last year, um, because we're in a push to start. We're in a Paramount picture, and last year it was just a lot on top of what was going on in the world. Plus, in my personal life, I was also dissociating, and I just couldn't take it. So I got off social media. And coming back on, I just didn't think that that was something I was going to have to. I didn't anticipate my anxiety behaving like this. So that's something I might have to consider. I have to sit down and curate what is going to be healthy for me, in my day-to-day operation, and if social media fits into that. Because for some of us who have um, who struggle with our mental health, it might not be for us. And I know I'm somebody who doesn't like to think that I can't be somewhere or be on something. Like, I don't like to feel like I'm being ran from nothing, and like no one. Like, I don't like that. And my brain immediately is like, this feels like a challenge I would like to accept. And I've talked in therapy. I actually, last week was so detrimental that I needed therapy. Like, I needed a session. I'm having session today, my normal time. I had session Saturday because I needed help. And we talked about if social media is, if it's someplace I can be. So that's something that happened. Um, but Wednesday, after I talked with Ray, I felt better, and I was able to give myself some grace. And she was super understanding, and I explained to her what was going on. And I went out with my best friend Carrie. Like, we had dinner. It was our like late Valentine's Day, and things were starting to look better. And then self-sabotage reared its ugly head. I don't know why I think I can outbrain my brain. I I thought I could see self-sabotage coming. Like, like a witch in her cauldron, like making her potion. I thought I could see it. So the self-sabotage. Now, the brain does not care about growth. It doesn't care about progress. It doesn't care about you being a better you. You have to fight for that, because your brain cares about comfort. It cares about what it knows. And I think, since late December, I have been able to envision a world where I am not governed and ruled by my depression and anxiety. Like, I've been able to see a tiny glimpse of that. And I I think my brain was just like, you know what, at the chance of backtracking, that's what the fuck I'm gonna do. Because I don't know nothing about this healthy shit you talking about. This this um this new girl you're trying to introduce me to. I don't know her. Not trying to get to know her. I just want to stick to the rivers and the lakes that I'm used to. So someone's name was brought up, someone who I don't deal with anymore. Um, and it's mutual. Their name was brought up, and I think I just was, I ended up just being curious, and I liked a picture on a page I shouldn't have been on, and it was a silly mistake. Um, and it has happened to some of the best of us. But my anxiety went into overdrive because it didn't just feel like um, a simple mistake. I felt like a stalker. I felt like a bad person. I felt like someone who doesn't respect boundaries. I just felt really embarrassed and ashamed of this mistake, especially because I don't like feeling like I'm giving power up. I don't like feeling like I'm losing. I don't like feeling as though someone can have something bad to say about me. But truth is, in our life, anyone can have something bad to say about you. Because we're not always the good, we're not always the good guy. I feel like there are few people who, or maybe not few, but some of us aren't going to be the person that everybody has a nice thing to say about them when their time on earth is done. And I didn't want to I felt like I was invading and bothering, and it really was just that I think I was blindsided by um them being brought up. And that's really, I think that's really what it was. But the self-sabotage, the opportunity for my brain to backtrack, it jumped on that. It jumped on, trying to set me back to a time that I wasn't in anymore. And I felt like I undermined my self-respect, my self-esteem, um, my my worth, my value. Um, and I just felt so guilty and so ashamed of that, off of a stupid like. And my friends were trying to, comfort me and say it's not that bad. You can block them, you can unlike it. And I was just like, but it doesn't matter. Like nothing anyone could say could make me feel like this wasn't the worst mistake ever. And I just began to think the worst things about myself. And I was so stressed out. Anxiety was so high. And my allergies were also kicking my ass. So I took 2 Benadryls that night. And I was so stressed out. I perspired through my whole sleep. Like, I woke up in a sweat. My shirt was drenched, pillow drenched. That's how stressed out I was about it. And even thinking about it right now, like, I feel like my chest being tight and my heart beating fast, and I notice how fast I'm talking. um and I just didn't even really feel better the next day. So I needed session. I had session Saturday morning, because my therapist had availability, and we talked about the self-sabotage. We also talked about writing the bad things that I say to myself down, which we've talked about before. I hate journaling. My therapist knows I hate journaling. And I've modified it. Like, I used to have like a little like a notepad that you write for like grocery lists, and I would jot that down. And I didn't like any kind of book, I don't want to write in it. And I've modified writing to like loose leaf paper. When I started dissociating last year, I could not keep track of my thoughts. I couldn't remember things. So I'm looking at the papers over there, and it's on this bookshelf that should have books on it, but I think they're in the drawers. Um, I started last year jotting my thoughts down on the loose leaf paper, as they would come to me. I don't know. I used to say that I thrive in chaos. I thrive in not being organized. Like, I work better that way, and that's not true. I don't thrive in disharmony. I'm just used to it. I'm just used to it. Um, and writing in a book it just felt like a constraint. It felt, is that a word? I felt confined. So I started writing on the loose leaf paper, and I don't do it as much anymore, but I do it. And I've now gotten this whiteboard so I can write on it. That feels even better than the sheet of paper, because I can erase it. And if I need to like save it, I take a picture. So after session, I jotted down all of the bad things that I thought about myself based on this little mistake, right? And my therapist was like, when we write the bad things down, we'll look at it and be like, wow, I can't believe I'm talking to myself that way. And I sometimes my therapist will say stuff and I'm like, you have to say this because you're a therapist. And then I did it and I was like, wow. And you look at it and you get even more sad that that's how you really feel about yourself. I felt guilty because I was on a page I really didn't want to be on, shouldn't have been on. And more than the guilt, I felt shame. And my therapist says, guilt is a normal emotion. You believe When you believe you've done something wrong, you feel guilty. Shame is about how we feel about ourselves. And writing on this board, I saw how I felt about myself. And I wrote down all I could think of the first time, and I took a picture, erased it, and I had even more ugly things to say about myself. And this was really what I wanted my friends to see, what I wanted them to get. But my friends don't think about me that way. They don't think I'm a narcissist. They don't think I'm pathetic and pitiful and unsafe and unwell. They don't think I'm desperate. They don't think I'm a nuisance. They don't think that people are better off without me. They don't think that way. So they couldn't get it. I don't know a better way to say it. They couldn't get it. But when I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is how I think about myself right here, right now. And part of working through that is grace and compassion. And you really kind of get better at that by affirming yourself. And there's going to be a video like on affirmations, but also giving, grace and compassion to other people. Because when I fuck up, it just feels like, wow. It just feels like, oh, it can't get any lower. And that's how I felt. I felt like this was really, really low. This was really low. And like I said before, I just felt like I undermined my perspective, my self-worth, my self-respect, myself by being in this space that is no longer for me. Right? And I mean, not that it ever was, but just that is in the past. So why am I there? Self-sabotage is a real crafty and sneaky bitch. And after I wrote those things down and I acknowledged that this was self-sabotage, I acknowledged that, okay, wow, I don't really think really well about myself right now. I could make room for better messages, for better things. And it's like, it's really like magic, because when I wrote it down, I felt like there was more room. I felt like there was more room to say, I deserve more than being haunted by this mistake, by this anxiety, by this paranoia. I deserve more than this. I deserve peace. I deserve to be confident and to believe my own perspective. I was so frustrated because I was just like, none of my friends get it. And needing them to see it my way so badly was really about me believing myself. And we've talked about this in therapy in more than one or a few sessions, is that I struggle with my own reality. And, you know, trauma has a lot of byproducts. That's one of them. So I feel as though I need my family and friends to believe me, right? To see it the way that I see it. And part of that is because I don't see it the way, like, I see it, but I don't believe it. Um, it's just really hard to sometimes accept and to allow myself to say and believe this thing happened to me. And needing them to see it my way just shows that I still have work to do in believing myself. And for anyone who is a victim or survivor, however you identify, of trauma, trust me, I get how important it is to want to be believed and to need to be believed. I get it. So I'm not saying that's not important at all. It's just super important, and it's imperative that we believe ourselves, that we believe our own stories, that we validate and affirm ourselves. And that can just be so hard, especially because you can almost anticipate that there's going to be somebody somewhere who's just like, that's not that didn't happen, and just negative messages. But if you believe that first and foremost, then I don't want to say that the rest doesn't matter. It just makes whatever healing looks like that much harder. um I want to say after session and that day got better. um Sunday was even better than Saturday. Like, each day was a little better than the last. The last few nights I have not perspired through my sleeping shirt, my night shirt. And I have been able to tell myself that it's okay to try again, that I did not erase all of the growth and healing that I've done, that I'm still worthy of um, creating a better me for me, or becoming a better me for me, I should say. I I was able to give myself more positive messaging and permission to leave that mistake in the past, to leave that mistake right where it is, because when you make a mistake, it doesn't erase what has already happened. It doesn't erase what you've experienced. It doesn't erase your what your perspective was at the time, or what your perspective is now. It's not a mistake is not an eraser. It doesn't do that. And I hope this is helpful in your journey and in your growth. And anytime you think that you just can't bounce back, you can't try again, you've messed it up and now you have to start all over. um Sometimes getting back up and even starting over, and having to go back to having to go back 10 seconds, like doing a little bit of a rewind, isn't the worst thing in the world. You get to try again. You get to pick up where you left off, whichever feels best for you, but you get to do it. I think I've reached the point in the video where I am starting to ramble. So I hope this was helpful. And if you like this kind of content, or if you have, anything you would like me to expand on, definitely like, comment, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. And you can definitely share it with someone who might be enlightened and appreciate it. But thank you for sitting with me, and I hope you come back again. I'm so happy you're here.